Right now, while you're watching this, your mind is building your future, not later, not when you decide to get serious. Right now, second. Every thought moving through your head is laying a brick somewhere, either toward something you actually want, or toward the very thing that's been suffocating you for years. And here's what makes that terrifying. Most people have absolutely no idea it's happening. They go through an entire day, 20, 30,000 thoughts, and not one of those thoughts was chosen. They were just there, passing through like weather. And those people wake up 10 years later and genuinely cannot understand why their life looks the way it does. But here's what nobody told them, what nobody told most of us. Your thoughts are not just observations. They're not neutral. Little sparks floating harmlessly through your skull. Every thought you think and every word you speak is actively, relentlessly, continuously creating your future. It is going out by something far larger than you and coming back as your lived experience. Now, you might be rolling your eyes, be thinking, that sounds like something on a motivational poster, not something that actually changes a life. And that reaction, that's exactly why this video exists, because the people who brush this off are the ones who stay stuck, and the people who genuinely sit with this idea, who stop and let it land, are the ones who quietly, building, steadily, a life building that used to feel impossible. So here's the only question that matters right now. What if it's true? What if you have been creating your life all along? You just didn't know you were doing it. Stay with that. Because by the end of this, you won't be able to think about your own mind the same way again. Let's talk about what's actually going on beneath the surface, about someone you know. Maybe it's even you, who works hard, who genuinely wants things to be different, go and tries, and still ends up circling back to the same frustrations, the same some financial pressure, the same relationship patterns, the same low hum of dissatisfaction that never quite goes away. They're not lazy. They're not cursed. They're not unlucky in any cosmic way. They're just running a program they never chose. Because here's what most people never examine: belief systems running in the background of your mind right now. The ones that were installed when you were young, maybe 7, 12, maybe 16, when someone you trusted told you something about money, about what you deserve, about how much love you're worthy of, about whether people like you make it in this world. You heard it, you didn't question it, it got filed away, and for decades it has been quietly, efficiently, invisibly shaping every decision you make. That voice that says, this won't work for me, where did it come from? Feeling, when something good happens, that strange certainty, it won't last. Where did that get planted? Habit of expecting the worst, of preparing for disappointment, of telling yourself you're being realistic, when really, you're just protecting who gave you that. The uncomfortable answer is, you've been creating your reality, just not intentionally, painting your future with a brush you didn't know you were holding in colors you never consciously picked. And the result has been a life that reflects your unconscious beliefs far more than your conscious desires. That changes today. But first, understand what you're actually working with. Here's the metaphor that will anchor everything from this point forward. And I want you to hold on to it. Imagine the most extraordinary, powerful computer ever built. Not just powerful, miraculous. A machine that can connect your inner world to your outer reality, that can translate abstract intention into concrete experience, quite literally reshape what shows up in your life. This machine is sitting right in front of you, but nobody gave you the manual down and said, here is how the language works. Here's the input that produces the output you actually want. Here is how you stop feeding it garbage and start feeding it gold. So instead of using this miracle machine, most people just tap random keys and wonder why the screen keeps showing them the same thing. Your mind is that computer. Thoughts are the language it runs on. When you learn the language, really learn it, really practice it, miracles stop being accidents, become the expected output. You stop being surprised when good things happen, because you finally understand the process that produced them. And this is not wishful thinking. This is the oldest, most consistently reported truth in human experience, dressed in modern language, so that those of us who need evidence can finally hear it. Now, let's go through what that actually means in practice with the thing. Most people get completely backwards. Most people think awareness is automatic. They assume that if something important is happening in their mind, they'll notice it. They'll feel it. They'll know. They won't. Probably haven't. Here's why this matters more than almost anything else. You cannot change a thought you don't know you're having. You cannot redirect a pattern you can't see. You cannot plant new seeds in soil you've never looked at. First and most urgent skill, the one everything else depends on, is the ability to catch yourself mid-thought and ask one simple, radical question. What am I thinking right now? Not, is this thought true? Not, should I feel this way? Just, what is actually moving through my mind at this moment? And, is this something I would choose to have as my reality? That's it, whole practice at its foundation. But here's how rare it is. Picture someone driving to work. Traffic is slow, they're running late, and in the background of their mind, almost too quiet to notice, there's a current of thought running. Things like, nothing ever goes right for me. I'm always behind. I never catch a break. My life is a series of things going wrong. Nobody said those things. There was no dramatic internal monologue. It was just the hum, the default channel playing softly, constantly, going completely unexamined, while that person sat in traffic and built a little more of their future. Like that, across thousands of thoughts per day. Multiply that across weeks, months, years. Start to understand why a life that feels like just bad luck is actually a very precise, very consistent, very faithful reflection of what has been running in the background all along. The first action is not affirmations, not visualization, any technique at all. It's this: several times today, at random moments, stop. Put your hand on your desk or your knee or wherever you are. Take a breath and ask, what am I thinking? Would I want this thought to come true? Would I choose to experience what this thought is pointing toward? Have to fix anything yet. You just have to see it. Awareness is the door. Everything else walks through after. And what you find when you start looking, that's where things get interesting. Here's something that will probably shock you when you first do this exercise. Take a blank piece of paper. At the top, a topic. Any topic that matters to you. Money, relationships, your health, your career, your own worthiness. And then just write. Too hard. Don't edit. Don't judge what comes out. Just let every thought, every association, every feeling you have about that subject spill out onto the page. Now look at what you wrote. For most people, first time they have ever actually seen what they believe, not what they think they believe, not what they've told other people they believe, what they actually viscerally, instinctively believe, the raw data underneath the polished surface. And what they find is often devastating. They find beliefs like, hey, money is dirty, money is hard, people like me don't get wealthy, rich people are dishonest, wanting more is greedy, or I'm not good enough to be loved the way I want to be loved, or that I've always been the kind of person who struggles always, it's just who I am. These are not small things. These are the operating instructions of your life. These are the settings your computer has been running on for years, until you see them clearly, in writing, in your own handwriting, undeniable on the page. They remain invisible, and therefore untouchable. But the moment you see them, the moment you hold the page and look at what's actually been running your life, something shifts, because now you have a choice you didn't have before. You can look at a belief like, I don't deserve abundance, and recognize it for exactly what it is. Not a fact, not a law of nature, not something carved into the universe, but a sentence someone somewhere helped you believe, a sentence that has been costing you quietly for years, and sentences can be rewritten. That's what comes next. Now, we get to the part most people have heard of, but very few have actually practiced with real commitment. Affirmations. And before you skip ahead, you decide. You already know this. Let me ask you something. Have you actually done them consistently? With intention, or have you tried them half-heartedly for a week, noticed nothing dramatic, and quietly concluded that they don't work? Here's the thing about affirmations that almost nobody explains properly. You are not saying affirmations into silence. You are saying them into opposition, into years and years of deeply rooted counter-beliefs that are louder, older, and far more practiced than your new positive statements. And that means the work is not about saying the right words once. It's about persistence, planting over and over until the new belief has enough roots to hold. Think of it this way. Imagine a field that has grown the same weeds for 20 years. You can't walk through it once with good seeds and expect transformation by morning. You have to plant, you have to water, you have to show up again the next day and plant more, and the day after, because nothing is happening, but because the growth is underground, invisible thing, building strength in the dark before it ever breaks through the surface. That is what affirmations are actually doing. They are not magic words, they are seeds. And the ground they're going into is the soil of your subconscious mind, which has been growing other things for a long time. What does real practice look like? It's deliberate, it's daily, it's specific to the areas where your written exercise revealed the darkest, most entrenched beliefs. You don't need dozens of affirmations. You need a handful of powerful ones, chosen with intention, repeated with feeling, spoken as though they are already true, not as desperate wishes, but as calm, confident announcements to your own mind about who you are becoming. Fast. And here's one of the most powerful ways to do it that almost nobody takes seriously until they try it. Stand in front of a mirror. Look directly in the eyes and speak to yourself. Not at the mirror, not at a reflection, to yourself. Because something happens when you do this. That doesn't happen when you just repeat words in your head. You feel the resistance. You feel the places where the words don't land, where something inside you flinches or laughs or turns away. And that resistance, that exact spot where you can't quite look yourself in the eye and say, I am worthy, I am capable, I am loved enough. That is the location of the wound. That is where the real work is. The practice itself will show you where to go. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, before the world gets loud, walk to the mirror. Look to yourself the way a mentor looks at someone they genuinely believe in, and say the simplest, hardest affirmation there is. I love you. I really, genuinely, truly love you. If it feels ridiculous, that's information. If it makes you want to look away, that's information. If something in you resists it, that resistance has been shaping your life. And the only way through it is to keep showing up to that mirror until the words stop feeling like a lie and start feeling like the most obvious in the world. What happens in the weeks after you start this practice surprises almost everyone. And it doesn't start with the big things. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough when people discuss changing their thinking. The small confirmations matter enormously, not because green lights and parking spaces are the goal, not because the point of transforming your inner world is to coast through traffic, but because the small things are the proof of concept. They're the first shoots breaking through the soil after you've been planting in the dark. When someone starts genuinely practicing conscious thought, when they start affirmations, when they start catching their default thinking and redirecting it, when they start treating their mind like the powerful creative instrument it actually is, the early results are almost always quiet. A conversation that goes unexpectedly well, an opportunity that appears from an unlikely direction, a moment of ease where there's usually struggle, 3 green lights in a row when you're running late. These moments are not coincidences. They are feedback. First, the universe or the law of cause and effect, if you prefer more grounded language, responding to a new input thing, and the critical thing is to notice them, to receive them with genuine gratitude. Because gratitude is not just a feel-good habit. Gratitude is a signal. It is your mind and heart saying, more of this please. This is good. I welcome this. About it from a purely human perspective. If you gave someone a gift and they responded with criticism, wrong color, wrong size, this isn't what I wanted, would you rush to give them another? Of course not. But if they received it with real joy, with genuine appreciation, with a warmth that made you feel your effort mattered, you probably think about them every time you found something they'd love. The relationship between your inner world and your outer experience works the same way. Gratitude opens the channel. It keeps it open. The more genuinely, specifically, and consistently you notice the good that already exists in your life. The parking spaces, the kind strangers, the moments of unexpected grace. The more those experiences multiply. This is not passive. This is not about sitting and waiting for good things and then feeling grateful when they arrive. It's an active, daily, almost athletic practice of looking for what's working and naming it out loud, writing it down, saying thank you to the morning itself before it's even shown you what it has. Makes this the bookend of every day. Start the morning with gratitude for what you already have. End the night in gratitude for what the day brought. Especially the things that were hard, because even difficulty seen through the right lens is growth. Even obstacles, when you believe that only good lies before you, are redirections rather than defeats. Speaking of belief, here's where this all starts to break down for most people. Here's 𝗪𝗟𝗟𝗏 affirmations. Feel like they're not working even when you're doing everything right. Let's be completely honest about something. There are people who have tried this, who have stood at mirrors, who have written affirmations, who have attempted gratitude practices, and who have come away feeling like they're doing something wrong because nothing seems to change. And those people deserve a real answer, not cheerful reassurance. So here it is. If you are doing 10 minutes of positive affirmations every morning and spending the other 23 hours and 50 minutes in a constant, great stream of negativity, if I can't afford that, I never get what I want, nothing works out for me, then what's the point? The math is simply not in your favor. Not because the practice is broken, because you're planting 10 seeds and then pouring salt on the ground the rest of the day. Someone once asked, how many positive affirmations did you do today? Said 3. The follow-up question was, how many negative affirmations did you do today? When they actually sat and thought about it, really counted the times they told themselves they were broke, behind, unlucky, unworthy, too tired, too much, not enough. The number was closer to 300. That is not a small gap. 𝗪𝗜𝗟𝗟. That is a fundamental mismatch between what you're consciously trying to build and what you're unconsciously maintaining all day long. And the only way to close that gap is not to do more affirmations. It's to become more conscious, more aware, more willing to catch the automatic negativity midstream and redirect it. Not with force, not with self-criticism for having it, but gently, persistently, like a gardener who keeps coming back to pull the same weeds without frustration, because that's simply what gardening requires. The practice is not about being relentlessly positive. It's not about pretending that hard things aren't hard. It's about developing enough awareness to know when you're contributing to a problem you claim you want to solve, and enough skill to choose different in that moment. Even the smallest shift counts. Even catching one negative automatic thought per hour and gently replacing it with a neutral or positive alternative is, over days and weeks, a profound intervention. Because that one thought unchecked would have multiplied. So it would have attracted similar thoughts. It would have colored your mood, your decisions, your energy, the way you walk into a room, the way you speak to someone, whether you reach for an opportunity or let it pass because something in you quietly believed you weren't ready. Every single thought matters. None of them are neutral. And the sooner you genuinely believe that, not as a concept, as a lived conviction that changes how you move through your day, the sooner your life begins to reflect it, which brings us to the single most powerful shift you can make. Not a technique, not a habit, a belief. One belief that changes everything else is a sentence that, once it becomes truly yours, not borrowed, not recited, genuinely believed, can fundamentally change the texture of your life. 4 words, simple enough to dismiss, profound enough to build everything on. Only good lies before me. That's it. Only good lies before me. Now, think about what it would actually mean to believe that, not to hope it's true, not to wish it were true. Taught to repeat it, while secretly assuming it isn't, but to genuinely, structurally, at the level of your nervous system and your automatic reactions, believe it. It would mean that when something goes wrong, first move isn't despair. It's curiosity. What is this redirecting me toward? It would mean that when a door closes, crumble. Because you know, not hope, that a better door is somewhere in the equation. It would mean that uncertainty stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like the space where good things grow. It would mean that your default posture toward the future is not bracing for impact, but opening your hands. This belief, only good lies before me, it's not about denying reality. Life will still bring difficulty. Loss will still come, will still not go according to plan. But the person who has rooted themselves in this belief experiences those things differently. They move through them, 𝗪𝗪𝗟𝗘𝗦. They come out the other side faster and more intact than the person who was certain from the beginning that going to go badly. And here's the extraordinary part. When you hold this belief, you start to notice that you're right. Not because the universe decided to reward you, but because your eyes are now calibrated to see the good that was always there. The lesson in the setback, the opening in the obstacle, the unexpected connection that arrived precisely because you were open to receiving it. The belief shapes the perception. The perception shapes the experience. The experience reinforces the belief. It is the most powerful loop in human psychology, and you get to choose which direction it runs. 注定. We're approaching the moment where everything comes together. And I wanted you to feel the weight of what's been said here. Not as information, but as possibility. You came into this world with a magnificent mind, a computer more sophisticated than anything humanity has ever engineered. And for most of your life, through no fault of your own, nobody showed you the instruction manual. You ran on the programs that were installed before you were old enough to choose them. You thought thoughts you never selected and felt feelings you didn't understand and created a life that reflected all of it back to you with heartbreaking accuracy. But you are not that child anymore. You are a person sitting here right now who has heard something important, who has been told, clearly without mysticism, that the most powerful creative force in your life is the one between your ears, that awareness is the foundation, that words and thoughts are seeds, that gratitude is the water, that beliefs are the soil, and soil can be changed. And here's what I want you to really feel. It has been working the whole time. The law hasn't been failing you. It's been faithfully, perfectly executing exactly what you fed it. Which means the moment you start feeding it something different, something intentional, aligned with what you actually want, it will be just as faithful, just as accurate, just as powerful. Nothing has to be rebuilt from scratch. You're not starting over. You're learning to drive a car you've been riding in for years. The engine was always there. The capability was always yours. You just didn't know. You were the one with your hands on the wheel. You do now. So here's what you're going to do today. Not this week, not when things calm down today. You're going to take a piece of paper or open a notes app, or find the back of an envelope. It doesn't matter. And you're going to choose one area of your life where you feel stuck, frustrated, or quietly hopeless. And you're going to write down everything you actually believe about it. Every fear, every assumption, every sentence you've been quietly telling yourself for years. Don't edit, don't judge. Just write until the page has the truth on it. Okay. Then you're going to look at what you've written and find one belief, just one, that has been costing you. And you're going to write the opposite, desperate wish, not an overcorrection. Just a calm, true feeling statement about who you are capable of becoming. Write it down, loud. Tuck it somewhere, you'll see it tomorrow morning. That's it. That's the whole assignment. Bang. Not because one affirmation changes everything, but because the person who does that today becomes the person who does it again tomorrow, day after, and over time, through nothing more dramatic than consistent intentional thought. The soil changes. The seeds take hold. The life on the outside starts to match the world being quietly built on the inside. Your thoughts are painting your future right now. The only question left is, do you want to choose the colors? Because you can. You always could. You're just starting to remember it.